I want to talk about a problem that probably plagues you and me and many others that might share this restoration industry. Excuse the noise. This is a very casual, impromptu, sitting on the back deck while I read a book. Had a thought. I want to share with you an abbreviated story that a client and I had yesterday. A very great client in North Carolina runs a really successful fire, water, mold restoration company and does contents. Well, here's the scenarios. I'm leaving the names out of this. They've been a client of ours for a couple of months now and have evolved. What they would do today is different from what happened here. But I want to talk about this story in the terms that it probably affects you currently if you've not made a shift in your client onboarding and how you process your customers for their experience. So the numbers are the dates on this were May. The company responded. This was a friend of the family. Those are usually very tricky ones to start out with. So friends of the family had a pretty extensive water damage, a pretty sizable house. Water heater in the attic leaked down for a couple of hours before it was noticed, and it ended up being a top-down total saturation of multiple levels and flooring types. There was a mitigation job. This company does not do the reconstruction, so this will not include reconstruction. But they set forth a work authorization, a little bit more than your typical work authorization. They really are strong with their terms and conditions. And but what they did not do in May, and important because that person will be watching, today they do it differently. We are adamant of teaching and showing contractors how to put a number on a job up front, not the final number, a preliminary number based on the initial inspection to get you started. It could be, $3,000 to get started today, but as we find more, as we do a deeper inspection, it's going to probably uncover a lot more work that we need to do. But they did this job, completed it, happy customer, did everything that was needed. It was apparently a difficult job. A customer had a lot of contents, maybe bordering on hoarding, and there were some textiles involved. And this company does the contents and textiles. So let's just say round numbers, it was $30,000. Well, I get a call yesterday from our client, and he's like, I need your help with a situation. And it's more about, tell me I'm not crazy. So since May, and let's just say the 1st of April, they invoiced this customer. This conversation was happening in late August. So we're talking a good solid 4 months here. Attempts to collect were made. Probably not aggressive enough, but this customer really this client of ours likes to be very generous with his community. But what we've got is a homeowner for 4 months barely responding, mostly dodging their calls, leaving on vacations a lot, which, by the way, that will be key to this story. Vacations all around in Mexico, etc. Generally not just going away for the weekend. So what happened about a week ago is this homeowner contacted the contractor and says, hey, our insurance, and it's not a big company, it's not one of the big State Farm or Allstate, it's a little bit smaller. They've issued a check for payment. We'd like to get that over to you. Great, let's get that. Does it include interest, because they charge interest? He said, well, it's about half or a little less than half of what your invoice was of $30,000. They've offered 14 for the whole job. Well, he called me and said, what should we do? I said, you need to credit that to your QuickBooks, reissue a new invoice for the amount unpaid, and submit that in writing and email and mail it to your customer and ask how they would like to handle the rest. And it was a few moments later, he said he got a phone call from a very angry customer, or an email from an angry customer, and says, that's what our insurance gave us, that's all we're paying you. And then shortly after that, an email came from the adjuster. I think this might have been the first time they've heard from the adjuster. And the adjuster said, hi, how are you? Placating, and pretend like they're friends, and said, hey, we've sent this off for a review. We see that this should have been done for the amount we settled for you. But you're trying to make our customer pay the entire bill. What are you willing to do to negotiate? Well, that was the word that kind of set him off. So he called me up and I said, well, first off, and this is the lesson for all of you. In your state, there's 45 states out of the 50 that we have here in America, that there is a law called UPPA, the unlawful practice of public adjusting. You're not supposed to or allowed to by law, because adjusting and representing your customer as a public adjuster is a licensed position. You are not to act in the position of a licensed position, or you are in jeopardy. And more and more and more across this country, this is important, insurance companies are more than willing to ask you to break that law and step into that role. And more contractors are willing to do it to get the payment, to not hold their customers accountable. I'm a fan of a client and a contractor contract. I don't think that we as restorers, unless you are part of a program or a TPA, your customer is not the carrier or any of their parties, and you should not be communicating with them. Your services cost what they cost. You should also be giving the customer a number in the beginning so that they sign a contract, which is a legal binding incurment. They incurred a cost by the contract. Therefore, the insurance company then has a fiduciary and responsibility to the policy for indemnity, to indemnify them and reimburse for incurred cost. When we don't have a number on the job, it looks like there's no number. The customer has not paid anything. It's still an estimate, because we did not do the right thing in the beginning, which is what we teach in our client onboarding program. It's changing. I mean this. This sounds like hyperbole. This is changing the lives and the business models of a lot of restoration companies. The subtle act of stating the expectations up front, letting the customer know what your lane is, what you will and will not do, and how you do your best work, and it not being waiting for payment for 4 months, 5 months. That's not what we got into this for. So he got this back and he prepped up an email, polite, but I like to use the term fair but firm. And I said, what are you still in your state? Are you still within your rights to file a lien? He goes, we are. Follow the process, and he has an SOP for the process for filing a lien. He doesn't like doing it. No one likes to do it. I didn't like doing it. Tell the customer in your onboarding, so the last thing I want to do is lien your property. If we get to that point, that means that someone's not paid us for the work that we've diligently done so well. This is not a matter of quality. This is not an adjuster and a homeowner saying you guys did not do your job. So he sent an email politely. I read through it and I had no changes. He said, if we don't receive payment by September 3rd or whatever it is, we will commence our SOP for filing lien or filing intent to lien, followed by filing a lien. And then it's over 10,000, which is over small claims court. We will engage our attorney and collections agency, and we will pursue completion. This is not just a small amount. So he put this in writing, and that customer and the adjuster fired back and said, you're just a crook in the market. Well, that obviously hurts their feelings. But this isn't about feelings. This is about your business. We're talking $15,000, $16,000 here, which is probably your profit, which is the fuel for your airplane to keep flying. So to summarize this entire video, I'm going to tell you right now, and I don't care if you don't learn it from us, but you need to look at your client onboarding. You need to treat your business model as a contractor and as a plumber and an HVAC. And listen, we have a big program about this, and we get the objections that most homeowners can't afford it. No, but what they can do, when you've done your part and you've empowered them with information and experience that you have, you can empower them to hold their insurance company accountable. $14,000 would not have paid for that mitigation. I said, what would you have done different? He goes, well, we would have left his floors down. We would have done this. We wouldn't have saved that. His floors would have been cupped. And then he would have had a problem with who? The contractor or the carrier. I said, no, we did exactly what we... The customer thinks you charge too much until you tell them this is what we charge everybody. These are our prices. They're not exactimate prices. And by the way, he does use T&M. He's got his own rates, but he's fair and reasonable. And lots of people pay his rates. So what I want you to take away is Don't starve your business by avoiding holding your customer accountable. They need you at a time when they're going through potentially one of the worst situations they've gone through, especially with their home. And you show up with a truck full of equipment, a decade or more of experience, and the ability and the know-how to turn this into a calmer situation. So we're going to work this out. We're going to save things. We're going to get you clean and healthy and safe. And you do that part, but that has to be a transaction for funds. Your business does not run on likes and reviews. I always had happy customers, but I told them what I could not do and what didn't make sense for me to try to allow an insurance company to dictate what the scope was. They usually don't even know how to dry, how to clean, how to remediate mold. They don't really understand. They can chat GTP the S500, S520 now, but that's not education does not replace experience. So I want you as a contractor to know what you're worth. If you're doing mitigation, how much money do you save the customer by proper drying or salvaging things from a fire to avoid discarding things, to maybe avoid them having to move out, avoiding additional extremely high numbers in reconstruction by tearing everything out? We saved it. We salvaged it instead. So we saved the insurance company and the homeowner 30, 40, $50,000 by doing our job as professionals and as experts in a niche market. You're worth every penny that you charge. Charge what you're worth, understand your numbers, know your cost. But by goodness, check out our onboarding. But figure out your process of what in your state to hold a business license, what your state requires. And the state that I live in, Virginia, has a DPR, Department of Public Responsibility. They issue license for businesses. Now, restoration, mitigation, mold, none of that in most states requires a license at all. Doesn't even require you to have a certification, so anyone can do it. But you have to follow contractual guidelines for consumer protection. And most states require that you follow. A work authorization is not a contract, and it does not protect you in court. So where this thing's going to go with our customer is if they go to court with this balance, there's a good chance that a judge will look at this and say, I don't see that the homeowner owes you anything. They didn't agree to an amount. You just made up a number and gave that to them at the end, so they had no options to have other choices. That is consumer protection. And we all know people in our market that throw crazy numbers that we don't expect homeowners to pay. Your number might not be incredibly out of balance, but it's going to appear that way because other contractors do it wrong, without transparency, without setting expectations. You will be the premier operator in your market. And no, you might lose some business from people. You know which people you'll lose business from? The ones that never intend to pay you a dime out of their own pocket because they want to leave it up to their insurance company. You know what insurance companies are going to pay? Knowing that their customers don't have any money or won't pay you, they're going to pay whatever they want because you have no leverage with the insurance company. You can't sue the insurance company because you don't have a contract with them. So you have to sue the homeowner. And in our industry, 1-star reviews scare the hell out of people. Now, if you've got 100 5-star reviews, I wouldn't worry about a 1-star review because it's going to look like in contrast that you have 99 people have loved your service. They called out your people by name, and you had one that's going to look bad. There are people who say that you should not have a 5.0 on Google. You should have a 4.8 or 4.9. It makes it more realistic. And then all you have to do is reply in a professional way saying, I'm sorry you felt compelled to leave a 1-star review. Looks like we tried to come to terms with payment and this wasn't paid in full. Please call our office so we can get this thing sorted out and maybe we can change your mind on this review. Whatever you want to say. But I'm going to tell you right now, the companies that stand up for their team, their company, they support what they do, they end up pulling ahead. They end up becoming not just one of everybody. They become one of one or one of a very, very small group. The takeaway, get a contract. I've got lessons in our RBA, our Restoration Business Academy, on a contract. We sell contracts. We sell the documents, but also more important, how to deploy them in your process for your customer intake and your assessments and stuff. We've got the whole thing mapped out from the first phone call to the payment to the collection, and then stay in touch with your customer. I want you to have a better company. I want you to have a company that people talk about and tell other people about, so that you can stop spending money with programs and TPAs, losing profit, stop buying leads, stop buying as many Google AdWords, and start living off of your reputation like I know you're worth. Hope that helps. Clark Brown, Restoration Advisors. I'm out. See you.